Grand finals of the Kung Fu Cup, number 28 of the year. It's Rogue and INnoVation in a best of 5. And in the top left-hand side, our blue Zerg player, to kick us off, took down Zest 2-0 in the semi-finals. It is Rogue. From Jeanette Green Wings. And from KaiZ Gaming, we have got the red Terran player taking down Trap 2-1 to make it this far. Let's hear it if you're cheering on INnoVation. First map of this best of 5 series, we get this up and running. So we get this underway, we get this ready to roll. No, and Rogue, I'm just going to try and quickly figure out when the last time they played was. They have been players who play oftentimes in those best of 9 series. We've casted a few of those between INnoVation and Rogue. Just wondering when the last time and what they played in. It was actually a best of 9. End of October though, so in fact, pretty much just over a month ago was the last time INnoVation and Rogue played an official match. Rogue won 5-3. Rogue won the one before that as well, 3-0, and then the time before that was perhaps their biggest match they've played all year against each other, which was in GSL. INnoVation 2-1 over Rogue in the round of 16. So INnoVation, in fact, he's definitely overall, I think, in 2020 seemed to have had Rogue's number. Let me just get these stats up as well, and we can talk through these a little bit, and we'll start to follow the paper across the map. Yeah, so in 2020 they've played 15 times, and INnoVation is 11-4 against Rogue. That includes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 match win streak that he had at one point. So yeah, he definitely had Rogue's number much earlier in the year for sure. But yeah, Rogue bouncing back a little bit in the later stage of the year. I mean, Rogue in general actually started to do very well in some of these online events too. You know, typically, and we really do preface Rogue games with this a lot in online events, but you never know what kind of Rogue's going to show up to an online tournament. And yet, lately, Rogue has been showing up in full force. Like, he's not messing around. He actually looks very serious. He looks very good. He's really been delivering on a lot of the, in a lot of his big games. So, a lot of his online games, not just the big games, which is really cool to see because sometimes you wouldn't follow Rogue. Like, I actually used to not follow Rogue in these events because to me, Rogue was just that guy that was going to... Everyone's, like, excited to see him, and then he's going to play, like, a 5-minute series and get knocked out because he does some dumb stuff. Like, he's going to roach rush into, like... You know what I mean? Like, it just was, like... It just wasn't ever good. But that's really not the case the last couple of weeks, last month even, I think it's fair to say. Probably longer than a month now with how time seems to blend together, but... Yeah, definitely have been seeing a much better Rogue this year in online events, and especially lately. So that's just my preface to this. That really don't take anything for granted going into this match. It's a 3cc. It's a fast stim with Hellions on the way. It's just the single rack, so just very much so setting up for the future more than anything else. As we do have our couple extra racks now coming down. No starport at all here then, so nothing to come of that as we just see very quick into bio then, essentially. Do have drones going to go over the left-hand side and just going to put themselves into this. A couple of Hellions will move around. Now, the engineering bay is already on the way up here from INnoVation, so again, he really is just quick into bio. With only 4 Hellions, the Marine count starts to build quickly. Now, Rogue just doesn't have anything to say about that. Rogue's just like, okay, cool, let's let you do that, and I'm gonna make my way into my, evolution chambers, lots of drones, and yeah, I guess we'll just, We'll see where we end up. Hellions get in, picking off a Ling already, and just going to be seeing a few Zerglings here jumping in on top of the rocks. So Rock's taking some damage. Clearing out space, making life easier later on in this game. Lightshade, for our first map, definitely one of the Zerg preferred maps, actually. And while its size is pretty short from base to base, it's the choice of bases. You get to go a couple of different directions later in the game. That's a big deal. You got to go a couple different directions. You got to take different steps forward. You get to really counterattack in different ways. And it's very hard for the Terran to rotate from up here to down here when contesting the fourth base. And that's the biggest part of it, because then it's much easier to get a fourth base up and online than what you might otherwise be working with. Two Medivacs will unload. Not yet, though. He's actually going to go for the main base. I will not lie. I was actually just expecting him to unload and look for some creep spread there initially. This Marine's going to lift up now. Unfortunately, leaves one behind, but gets out of there. The Queen's looking for the cutoff, but they're just not really that quick off creeps, so they don't even get a shot off. However, if you unload now, maybe you could chase those Queens down, because they're still kind of moving up to the top. So that's a mistake from Rogue that maybe costs him a lot here, because those Queens... Yeah, well, they're still set up here. I feel like INnoVation doesn't even realize just what's up with those Queens right now, as we'll get rid of some of this creep spread. Bane speed a long way off right now. 1-1 done. A few seconds until the Zergs 1-1 is here. A few Hellions from earlier now set up as Hellbats. If INnoVation realizes these Queens are back here, I mean, it actually kind of makes a bit of a weird fight, because you've got to kind of not attack the Queens while you're dealing with the Banelings, etc. Wow, INnoVation. He's taking some counter damage. We'll look in on that in a moment or two. He continues this fight. Banelings are rolling in on him. He just lift. He's going to go to the main base. So it's a Ling run by that's found 10 SCVs. Marines and mines starting to show up to clean this out. The problem is there's no Banelings for Rogue back across the map, so these Marines are going to continue to dominate. Yep, I mean, that was just shift-click Banelings on the ramp right there, but now I don't think he has the Marines to really do that. One Baneling connects. He got rid of all but one. And that's the problem with the shift clicking of the target fire, and you need to get all of them, otherwise you're gonna eat a big shot. And a couple Banes just slipped through. I think one got through the first time, one the second time, and that's the cleanup is now Rogue. Well, he took a lot of damage, but for 10 SCVs, he obviously, you know, with killing those 10 SCVs, he makes up for it quite heavily. Widow Mines continue to do very well here. Might want to unburrow those. I was thinking the damage onto the Marines might not be too great. Things and Banes will continue down. The Overseer providing some detection as these Widow Mines will continue to fall then. Marines continue to pull back. The Banes, well, one of them, two of them going to hit into mineral lines. A few SCVs going down again. And, I mean, Rogue is just running units at INnoVation at the moment, and it's going to stop working soon. He just needed to get enough Marines out. This was always going to be dealt with, but 12 SCVs down. INnoVation on an army supply lead, though. Both players on the way to 2-2, but INnoVation definitely forgot 2-2 for a while. He was ahead on 1-1, and now he's behind on 2-2, so he messed that up, and Rogue takes the chance to get Hydras up. I mean, now the next chance you give Rogue, he's going to get more than just Hydras up. He's going to get up the Lurkers, and if he gets Lurkers up, it's going to be a big problem as well, as these few Banelings will go rolling down the right side. SCVs loses 6 of them. Oh no, these Banes actually continuing through as well. Just gonna reach the main where there's actually some clumped up S. No. What? Oh my god. Obviously, if they all just hit the same set of SCVs, he would have had quite a few kills. They would have had at least 4 here or 4. Like, that was just, I mean, even more, right? Because a bunch of them just transferred. He would have had like 6 or 7 kills more. INnoVation just going to type out GG. I mean, you got to look at the game. There's creep spread everywhere. I know a lot of people will be like, well, you know, fourth base finishing, supplies are even, but I think he just feels like there's creep everywhere and he doesn't have any control of the game, and he probably feels... See if we get a bit of a bounce back from INnoVation as we have in the bottom right-hand side. Our blue Zerg. It is from Genetic Green Wings. It is Rogue. Taking on our red Terra on top left of the map from Kaizi Gaming. It's INnoVation. Yeah, like I say, maybe INnoVation could have stuck around a little longer in that game. I definitely don't disagree. I think a lot of people will be saying early GG. I think he was behind. I don't think the game was lost. But yeah, INnoVation was just like, nope, I'm done. Get me out of here. I don't want to see it anymore. I wonder if it's a bit of frustration where he's like, man, I did so much. I should have won the game, but now I haven't won the game. You know what I mean? That sort of factor where it's like, I should have won, but I haven't. And he's like a bit frustrated, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to play this. Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest part of it is, though, just that the creep spread was uncontested because he just didn't play to deny creep spread with the way he was setting up his drops and his army movement. He never played to deny the creep, so without denying the creep, he really never was able, he just wasn't able to ever really get anything done. So yeah, I think it was a bit of an early GG. I think you can hold on, and sometimes you never know if the Zerg gets too aggressive into you a couple of times over. Maybe that opens the road to a counterattack that, turns the game around. So I don't think it's ever... I don't think that's a GG at any point from INnoVation, really, most of the time. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, actually, it doesn't really make sense, right? Like, the more it just doesn't really add up in the slightest. CV back around the left side. We have a couple of queens setting up. Our link speed is already coming down from Rogue. And the Reaper just sitting out the front. As a creep tumor. Will come down, so a few lings getting ready to roll. Third CC is on its way already, so INnoVation not messing around when it comes to just eco builds. 3 CCs, wants to set up nice and quickly here. Reaper pulls back to the side. We'll see a grenade go down. Creep tumor takes a bit of damage, and the Reaper will continue to back away. Our third hatch comes in. Overload speed, so Rogue just making sure he knows what's up right away. And very similar from INnoVation as the last game. Just goes into stim very quickly. I think he knows what he wants to fix this time around. There's a couple of things he can change. Obviously, I mean, even just leaving the Hellions at home can sometimes just deal with that run-by. And he would have still had success with just Marines on the initial attack. Obviously, the other way around of looking at this is the fact that... It's the fact that INnoVation played a very... Well, it's the fact that now Rogue knows it's coming. So INnoVation's playing a very similar style. Does Rogue not just set up a little bit better against it if he sees all the same things again? I mean, those are the questions we start asking ourselves and stuff like that, so... We shall see what happens. Engineering Bay is going to be finishing in a few moments' time. A couple of refineries coming up. As our starport. So very, very similar to the last game. Even from Rogue's point of view, he's putting down evolution chambers again, so he's also looking for early upgrades. So that does seem to just be the plan through and through for the moment. Hellions on the bottom side, unable to get in there. We'll back away. The creep spreads down to the bottom. And Green's picking away at the rocks now as we do have our medevacs on the way up from INnoVation, a factory on the reactor, and seeing that Baneling nest out there. Everything very standard going through. It really is. I mean, these rocks are really important to get rid of. I think that's worth mentioning because if you don't get rid of these rocks, any sort of position behind them can be very difficult to break. This doesn't feel like a siege tank setup at all from INnoVation, but if it was, I mean, you don't know that necessarily just yet as Rogue, right? So in case it is, it's definitely worth to get rid of those. Open up that map, open up that space just a little bit once again from the start. This time, Lings jump on these Marines right away, so no fortune there. INnoVation backs off now. He has got the Hellions. He's ready for the run by, and he's starting to set up this wall, really committing to make sure this gets up. There's more Marines, a couple mines will move out. Hydra Den already from Rogue, so he's readying himself. There's 72 drones. I mean, again, it comes down to the question of, does he counterattack again? Obviously, if those Hellbats don't, or these Hellions don't get used as anything, and they would have rather been Hellbats in the army, but right now, Rogue not counterattacking, and I do feel like he's making more Banelings than he had last time around. He's got a bit better creep as well. The Widowmine does okay. As you unload to the edge of the creep, at least from here, you can obviously kite backwards, and he starts target firing Banelings as well. He's doing a good job of it. Now continuing through, a couple more Banes going to be dropping down, lifting back into medevacs. We are seeing some losses though, as we're now starting to see just a more natural split versus Baneling situation. They obviously are going a bit too far forward there, trying to maybe set off some other Widow Mines that just weren't around at all. INnoVation still has a bit of army supply lead, but he's still fighting on creep all the time. No scans to clean any of this out. Past the couple we saw over here, there's one, and he gets a single creep unit. All this creep around the top side, still around 2 Widow Mines. Not going to find connections, but the Balins didn't really find anything either. But there is a new round of Banes about ready to go. This time the Widow Mines get baited out onto the first few circlings. Now going to get a decent connection. This final one has 19 kills. Has seen a couple of shots so far. Has connected each time. Marines load up, medevacs inside of it, and just going to be seeing the other medevacs setting up now. Our 2-tier upgrades continue to tick along from both sides. Rogue finally gets a chance to start some Hydras. These are Hydras without an upgrade though. No Hydra speed, no Hydra range. So maybe that's an investment that just doesn't quite pay off for Rogue right away, and gives INnoVation another chance to defend. Again, eats a Widowmine shot onto medevac, so takes a bit more damage. Two Banes into here, roll through. Medevac actually gets sniped down, and the Hydra's starting to come out. Will they be the defense that Rogue needs to really stabilize here? As both players are going to start hitting 2-2 upgrades fairly soon. I'm worried about these Hydras just not having upgrades at all. Obviously no missiles, no groove spines, no muscular augments. Like I said earlier, you just don't have any of the things that typically make those Hydras that much better. Mine burrows. Marines starting to move forward. The Bane's rolling through. Marine's going to lift up and pull back up. Another little bit of Marine Widowmine out on the left-hand side. Scan comes down. Bunch of creep tumors going down again. I mean, INnoVation keeping up the pressure, but Rogue isn't dying. And the longer he doesn't die for, well, then you start looking at the fact that, you know, Lurker Den's on the way. If you don't die and you survive up until Lurkers, well, that can be amazing, right? You get those Lurkers out. They are frequently the turning point of TvZ matches in recent months. Oh my god, one Baneling got through. The Widowmine actually did a great job picking off the majority of Banes on the top side. INnoVation taking a 4th base behind this. It's been continued pressure. We've been very much so looking in the center of the map. The parade push has been parading. But now INnoVation says, right, time for a 4th command center. This 8 racks just isn't going to cut it. He's going to load up some Widow Mines and take them out with drilling claws for some drops. We'll see what they can maybe get done, because we know that they can be deadly. I mean, you don't pay attention for just 1 second, and a mineral line can disappear. So, first Widow Mine drop is already on the bottom side of the map. Well, Rogue finally on his way to muscular augments. His Lurkers then available, but remember, Lurkers are also not going to be super effective until they get their own upgrade, which is going to be that seismic spines, the adaptive talons, and that all comes in off of the hive tech. So waiting for that hive to be done. 7 workers here is actually pretty much as good as it was going to get for those mines who didn't find a major first connection, but I mean, each of them finding at least 2 or more. Fire pushes in, just going to see the Widow Mines burrowing up. Hydra. Oh my god. The Widow Mines didn't quite find the right connections there. If they got the... I actually think if the Widow Mines hit the Banelings in that moment, that's huge. A few more Banelings approaching, and INnoVation just decides to lift up and leave. He's actually got a lot of stuff still back at home. I wonder if at any point he moves away from Widow Mines into siege tanks against what is now going to be Lurkers on the field. I don't think you really want to keep going Widow Mines against Lurkers, but it is good to have the Widow Mines to drop and harassment play. Resources lost 13.5 to 9,000. Come all the way around the bottom side here. INnoVation scanning some crypt spread. Clearing up. And he's going to see the Lurker for the first time now, so he starts to realize what he's up against. Widow Mines will do a decent bit of picking off. INnoVation already building a 5th command center, not quite in position because of the creep spread blocking his pathway, but the idea is there. And there's just no Banelings at the moment. There's 15 of them, but none of them are responding to these drops. They must be on the right-hand side. Just watching this. This is doing well. The medevacs go down. Hydras will start to fall. Banelings and Lurkers over here that will start to defend. The Marauders eat a lot of the initial damage, so INnoVation's going to get on top of this right side base. He's finally cleaned up in the main, but he took a lot of Hydras down with him, and now he's going to start moving into the middle of the map as well. He has come to deal with this, but INnoVation's going to straight up kill base 5, so all of a sudden you get reset down to 4 bases on 4 bases as Rogue. I know he's been trading not amazingly this game. He was okay for that because the 5th base was up, but now that's not really true, and he's potentially going to start running into a lot of trouble. He picks off a full medevac of Marines, and that's a win which he probably needs to help carry him through to the next step of this. Those medevacs returning back to the center. The Lurker's already burrowing up. Team is taking a bit of damage scan. Lurkers are seen right from the get-go there. Just going to be seen how Vio only picking away at these rocks. I mean, maxed out INnoVation. Well, as the Ling's going to hit this morphing planetary, these reinforcements can go and push those back and let that planetary morph again, as the Bio is actually just going to get by. If there was... Oh, interesting. He's going to drop the Mule to open up the pathway into this bottom side of the map. I mean, I was about to say, if INnoVation can get down here, the units just aren't in position from Rogue, and that Mule works perfectly. Doesn't create a lot of space, but of course he can escape out the left-hand side. He didn't need a lot of space to get in here initially. Some Banelings. Yeah, I mean, he's going to turn around. He actually does lose a lot of the medevacs here. And the Lurker's getting some good damage done as well. INnoVation's supply plummeting a little bit in that moment. See how much he lost. It was not the prettiest of fights. I like the idea, just maybe a bit too committed to it. Sometimes you need to know when to just say, right, enough's enough. Let's just back away and take the advantages I already have. Let's see if INno can deny the 5th base again, man. There's so many Lurkers. I'm very scared that he's playing against purely, you know, a lot of Lurkers with purely bio mine still. There's no sign of teching up to Ghost. There's no sign of getting liberated. Anything that would just go that one step further to help out. And that's very scary. Because I don't know if you really break this. Especially now there's enough Lurkers to really cover so many different bases. 14 of them on the map. And again, it's all about just finding those Lurkers. If you can keep moving them around. You find them out of position one time. And then everything starts to fall apart because you're out of position initially, then you're out of position again. And this time the Lurkers will be... I mean, what if you just drop into the main base, fly over this 3rd into the main? That's the sort of opportunity you kind of need to look for right now as INnoVation. Like, it seems crazy, but the crazy plays are the ones that Rogue doesn't necessarily expect. And honestly, right now, a drop into the main would work wonders. The lurkers won't be in position. There's barely any hydras on the map. Yeah. It seems silly, but, like, I actually think it would be the best play for him. His INnoVation just expanding everywhere, by the way, so his expansion count is looking great. And INnoVation, yeah, I genuinely believe this is, like, the best play. I really do. I'm glad he found it, because there's just nothing here immediately. Right now, Lings start running in. Yeah, lurkers are going to show up. He'll target down one of them, make that 2, 3, 4 lurkers. Yeah, I mean, this is already a win. Plus all these Lings. And now he's also going to create space to the front, because Rogue's paying attention over to that main base. INnoVation started to do well here. These couple lurkers in the back put in some real work. The problem was they were firing in this direction, and Inno's army was lined up in that sort of direction as well, so the splash went a little bit further than usual. If Inno's army was lined up from, like, this thing like this, then maybe he's running in here, then the lurkers don't hit as much with the splash, and that was a, you know, kind of like if it was lined up like it is now. And the lurker splash is something you got to really consider in a lot of these fights. It does change how a lot of the interactions turn out. Resources lost 30,000 to 23.3. 17 minutes of romanticide. The handful of Lings making their way to the top. INnoVation is this time going to drop on top of the lurkers. Don't mind that. Creates a spread of units, and, well, it's mostly Lings and Hydras running in at this to try and clean it up. Parasitic Bomb. And they get 3 medevacs, which is really nice. The problem is now INnoVation doesn't have a secondary attack. He's been very good at having second attacks elsewhere when this happens, but it's a set attack from Rogue, which will find damage. INnoVation losing base 5. And now trying to find an evacuation for SCVs. This is fun, though. I mean, these lurkers going to get a bunch of shots off, and the bio that stims in after this will do well enough to clean up, so it's not a cheap trade for Rogue. He's just sending lurkers everywhere right now. This is where these SCVs, these Liberators are actually going to be really important, because Libs, a few of them set up, and they actually really can just stop this from happening. We're going to see a few wanted to get on top of this base. Okay, this is really nice. I mean, Rogue's put an INnoVation down to 5 bases when he was up to 7. So it's a huge slowdown at a moment in the game where Rogue needs it, sitting on just about, what, 6 bases himself in this top right online. So really did need something to slow INnoVation down, and these lurker attacks have done just that. But now I'm worried for Rogue that INnoVation actually sets up against the Liberators in an even better way. These Liberators are moving out. They've got Liberator range. Might even see a few of them make their way around to different bases to set up some harassment. It's not like we've got to, I mean, what would you have to do? Like an abduct defense if you can't reach them because there's no Spire in play. So yeah, probably abduct into the Hydras, and obviously that isn't pretty. It's just, you know, then you've got to send Hydras and a Viper over to deal with just a single harassing Lib. And I love what these Liberators are doing right here. I mean, a scan needed, and then the Liberator is going to put some work in. Now, the Hydras actually come in from the top, so the Liberators don't do a lot to the Hydra count initially, but the Lurker count is still taking a beating. Some extra Libs showing up. We'll see if they can push a bit further forward. For INnoVation, it was a bit wonky, because if he just had a slightly different position here initially, he would have gotten rid of a lot of the Hydras. And I know the Lurkers are maybe the biggest threat to the bio, but if you get rid of the Hydras, the Liberators will clean up everything else. You can see that right now these Hydras are going to try and make a play, and well, a couple Libs survive it, but he's running into Lurkers still. INnoVation losing a lot. Remember, he just lost a bunch of his bases, and right now he seems to be really paying for that. The Viper abducts are finding a huge amount of value, pushes into a couple Widow Mines, but the Hydra count alone at the moment is defending. An INnoVation down 40 supply. Rogue with a great turnaround, because he was in a really difficult spot for a lot of this game, I would say. And right now, he's absolutely making it work. These Hydras are going to win this fight. There's not enough Marines here. Problem is with Marauders, they're good against the Lurkers, they're good and tanky, but they don't really deal the damage to the Hydras, so the flimsy Hydras don't actually die as quickly as they're really meant to. And this army's just going to push through here. Liberators don't care about them, apparently. Maybe should have done, because a lot of Hydras went down to them, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, you're going to end up killing the base, and every base you're denying of INnoVation right now is another win on the board for Rogue, and that's going to be him taking a 2-0 lead after a really awesome 20-minute game where Rogue just holds out. And going back into game number 3 to see the beginning of a proxy racks from INnoVation. feels like INnoVation had a good opportunity in game 1. It slipped away from him. In game 2, oh my goodness, like, feels like he was kind of winning. Rogue's going to scout this, not right away, but still soon enough. I actually don't know if he pulled drones against this, which is a popular defense against the scouted T-Rex, and the reason being is that this is walling off. So if you come this way with the drones, you can't chase around to the other side of the barracks at all. So maybe we don't see a drone pull here from Rogue, and we'll just see him making sure he pulls drones to deny the bunker or so. INnoVation takes the gas at home. It is 2 racks, so you do expand a little bit faster. It's not as all-in as 3 racks. This is more of a pressure play than an all-in. Let's see what INnoVation can do with this. I wonder what Rogue is going to plan as well. There's a few drones, like I say. You want to pull to deny the bunker from coming up here. That's your main game plan at this point. You lose a bit of mining to make sure you don't have to spend so much more to deal with this. There's a lot of drones. Obviously, they'll mine the low ground for the moment. As 8-lings start up, we'll see probably one more drone pull here, cancel this bunker, and after this, you can really just go to kind of relying on the drones, on the lings that are coming out. Cancels that bunker, and now 8-lings are about to be done, so I don't think you need the drones anymore. You just let the lings do their job. There are 3 marines, now 4. We're about halfway done. We'll pull the drones one more time just for an extra little bit of something, but as soon as the bunker goes down, this is just not a threat. And now this next bunker, well, is going to be queens that can put some damage onto it. I can try and hit the SCV and slow that down as well. That's where we currently stand, as the SCV taking a bit of damage. Queen pulling back. Another queen's coming down this ramp, and here we go. Lings and drones pressing through. One of the queens already low, doesn't go down just yet. Gets the SCV. That's huge. There's INnoVation. Well, he's lost a couple SCVs, I gotta say. Rogue's done a good job pulling the drones back. He's really minimized any drone losses so far. And he is maybe going to lose this queen, though. Loses 1, loses 2. The drones are going to pull forward, and now INnoVation might actually start to get some damage done. I mean, actually killing the queens is already a pretty big deal, right? As the lings gone as well. So really just relying on drones. 8 workers killed, and this is absolutely enough from INnoVation. We'll find a couple more low. I mean, okay. He's just going to kill like every drone. Rogue just loses so much in the end here. I liked how it was going for Rogue, but that fight, losing the queens, losing the lings, does not work for him. And we go to game. Bottom left-hand side still has match point. And tournament point at that. In the bottom left is our blue Zerg player is Generic Green Ring's Rogue. Up against the red Terran top right-hand side, INnoVation as he go into game 4 then. INnoVation bringing it back just a little bit. And gets up into game 4 of this best of 5. Man, like I said, INnoVation, to me, I look at these games and I'm like, well, kind of feels like you could have won at least one of the 2 initial games. Then you proxy racks to win game 3, and I mean, I feel like you should go into game 4 with a good amount of confidence, because like you get yourself into good positions. You just need to be able to finish those positions off a little bit better, and if you can do that, then brilliant, right? Yes, we shall see fairly soon. As the racks comes down, hatchery setting up. Let me get this underway. So Rax is about to finish. Hey, what's up, Esper SCG? Thank you so much for the 8 month resub. Sorry, guys, I said there was some subs I had to read out, and I just never read them out, did I? I'll get to those after the game. Sorry, I really blanked after INnoVation Trap, apparently. All right, so game 4. INnoVation's been going for a lot of 3cc stuff outside of the proxy Raxus, right? So we'll see him maybe doing that again. Second depot. Yeah, let's see. Paper into marine. Factory will come down. Waiting to see as the factory comes down if that second gas is taken on. Maybe that's the switch. I mean, like I said, I don't even think the early game is the problem for INnoVation, which is why it's like, why change what's working? It's the mid game into later game you have to change. Although there is also obviously, being too predictable, and if you do just open up 3cc every single time, it becomes very easy for Rogue just to be greedy and to get into better positions against it. We already saw the adjustments Rogue made from game 1 to game 2 that allowed him to defend the initial Marine drop much more easily, as that's a big catch from INnoVation, getting a drone kill just like that. So starts off with a drone. He actually kept this drone away from the third base for a little while. It's only just now going to loop back around and get that third hatchery started. So Reaper stops that from being built early. Two Hellions already on the way up. Couple Hellions going in. As you do see our tech lab about to be done on the racks. We do have our command center. Third CC in the main base right here, as a couple of Hellions will make their way out down at the bottom side. Stimpack is already beginning. I mean, INnoVation just, when he finds a build that he likes, he will just do it again and again and again and again. And this is very much so, once again, one of those times, right? He will just do the 3cc fastest stem and see what he can get done with this at the end of the day. Two Hellions around the left. The Reaper gonna hop up. And a couple of Lings just gonna jump onto that Reaper as well. So Reaper taking a bit more damage. The grenade goes down. Drone's taking some shots. Reaper does die in the end as the couple drones surviving. So we just have our Hellions pulling back home. Our extra racks on the way. That build-up stage of this game for INnoVation is moving along quickly. Engineering base, I was going to say, we're usually down at this point as well, so we're just waiting on the gas to go into 1-1 here. Right down the bottom we go. Hellions to come through. I'm going to go for a dive onto this third base as well. Ling's taking a bit of damage. Means move out through the bottom side, and there's a Ling up the top. Nibbling away for the moment. Tech lab onto the factory. Marine showing up. Ling nearly taking some extra damage, and we do have the +1 attack upgrade, armor upgrade, and combat shields all continue to go on through for the moment. As that extractors building on the third base. Hellions get there, picking away at some drones. The Hellions will now move around the right-hand side as well. So back around to the right as well. This is the first push that we obviously look for in each of these games so far, apart from the Proxy Racks game. Oh, Marines nearly catching an Overlord that's moved out of high ground. Now, the Hellions are left at home. That threat of the run-by is just huge, and it's exactly what we saw Rogue using in game number 1 to deal a lot of the damage. So, threatening the run-by, keeping these Hellions at home ever since, and then Rogue just hasn't ran by in this scenario since then as well. So, he's kind of winning the mind game kind of war there. Talked about those engineering bays up earlier, but again, +1 armor out of sync with +1 attack really is a big deal as well. So, INnoVation will be down in armor upgrade for a little while going into this next couple of skirmishes, if he picks any fights anytime soon. Overlord gets picked off. Thing INnoVation's had this game, he's actually found 3 Overlords now, and that doesn't include this one over here, which will actually get to become an Overseer. A lot of Lings around the top are Going to be seen by one single Marine initially, so the depot gets raised. INnoVation gets a little bit of pre-warning about this Ling run by. The third still open though. He's going to leave just a few of the Lings here to get a few SCV kills initially, and then obviously we'll move through towards the rest of the Lings just getting out of there. If all the Lings stick around here, then you lose a lot more of them. You probably don't deal that much more damage either. So that's actually quite a nice 10 SCV little run by out of Rogue. +2/+2 Bane Nest with Bane Speed finishing shortly will be needed for this attack. INnoVation has switched it up. He's gone for the second factory now, and he's gone siege tanks early. So no Widow Mines this time around. We'll go for the tanks against a Rogue who continues to play Ling Bane into Hydra here today. And maybe the tanks just give INnoVation a little bit of extra momentum needed to really push on through down this bottom side and into this bottom base. Let's see. As you see Rogue running in from two sides right away. The Banes crashing in before tanks really get the shots off. A few Banes left over here. The Marines dive for the medevac, but Rogue makes a good hold. Now at the same time, Stim in on the left side. An attempted fifth phase of Rogue is already under fire. And it's movement from Rogue to try and shut that down. He'll get there, but not in time. The fifth hatchery will fall as the medevac boosts around the left side of this here. Siege tank about halfway done. SCV still mining. I mean, we do not talk about a fourth base yet from INnoVation. There we go. I was going to say, it's starting to get to the late side of things, right? I mean, if you didn't start it soon, it was going to be becoming a problem, you know? INnoVation taking some shots from the tanks. As the command center gets cancelled, we'll rebuild it pretty quickly. He's done a good job denying the fifth base at least, right? I mean, this time it will stay alive, but nice to see him still putting pressure on that position as he also gets rid of creep spread in the middle of the map and maintaining an army supply lead. We'll see again if he can just turn that into something else. Going on from here is, for a moment or two, he held a slight attack upgrade lead as well, so was trading pretty well against purely Lings that kept running into his Marines middle of the map. And if that comes up the left, a few more Marines coming through. Full of extra liberators from INnoVation, building more racks in the main bases. Marine tank continues to push to the left-hand side here. INnoVation setting up a bit of a siege. Gonna get in on this. I mean, this hatchery's gonna go down. He's been great at denying this fifth base. Ling counterattack right away. Well, Ling's run into a surround of a clustered up group of Marines. They didn't quite get into the natural, but they do well enough to slow this down. And yeah, I mean, the third base got a few SCVs, but that's about it. So maybe INnoVation can indeed keep on pushing here. There are a lot of Banelings. We've seen Rogue take a fight from down in supply earlier, but this one a little bit more serious than what we had earlier on. As he gets himself ready to come around, and here we go. Ling Bane from the bottom, the top, and let's see what he can do. He needs a few of the Banes to go to the bottom left. The problem is you lost all the bottom side Banelings way too quickly, and INnoVation feels like his army didn't even get dented in this battle. And now we don't have Banelings ready, so without Banelings set to go, INnoVation's just going to push straight through, take down this hatch, and continue to make progress as, well, these Banelings are just going to start getting cancelled one at a time, and Marines continue to step back. Bane's connecting in. A lot of Marines taking a lot of damage as more Marines continue to rally down here as well. Marines, tanks, medevacs, as we see. A bit of creep spread already being cleaned out. More Marine tank from the upper left-hand side is, again, a bit of creep being cleaned out here. Overall, the Ling's going to go back to the top. Going to type out GG in the end as he just doesn't have enough anymore, and he very much so knows it. And we actually tie the series up 2-2. There we go. And it's 2-2 in this finals series. In the bottom right hand side, our blue Zerg player from Jinnair never quite got a foothold. In game number 4, it's Rogue. Comes up the left, his aggression finally hitting and following up well. It's INnoVation. We'll see if he can do similar here on Death Aura. Again, has been loving that 3cc build into the 4 heli and fast bio play. Is that going to be how we continue on now? Perhaps. Perhaps. Overlord of Rogue makes its way out to the upper side. Yo. Thor's on parade! With the $30 donation, no message attached from what I can see. Thank you so much for filling up the daily donation bar. Really appreciate it. As we see our SCV moving across, it is for the moment one gas, but of course we're still yet to see the factory build. Hey, thank you so much for the $30. Get some love in the chat. As INnoVation, again, this is the event which he has won more times than anybody else. This would be his 13th victory over 56 cups. I mean, just think about that for a second, guys. That would be 25% of these heavily stacked Korean cups won by INnoVation. That's kind of a statement. Now, INnoVation doesn't play every week. He doesn't play every week, and he probably does play more than a lot of other guys, but I think still a statement to be made. That's really sick, actually. 25% of these events. If he wins today, if he wins this map, as Rogue was looking for his first win since February. This is his first final since February in the Kung Fu Cup, but of course he's not been playing as many of them. Reaper shows up, doesn't get any initial kills. As Reaper comes out over to the side, Starport setting up, and this INnoVation builds an orbital command on this natural as well. Racks into the main, couple of Hellions on the way out as well. All of this continuing to get going. As Tech Lab setting up on the barracks with the Starport coming through. Reaper from INnoVation wanted to think about a move into the main base there. Nothing wild out of Rogue, I think is really worth noting in this, right? Because this is not a, you know, he could have maybe switched it up a little bit. INnoVation switches up a little bit. There's a Starport. We're going to go past 4 Hellions. Typically here. Don't see a world where this moves over to make way for racks. He does, wow. So he actually goes past the Starport, so he gets a Viking up a little bit earlier this time, but still is only going to go for 4 Hellions. And maybe we only have 1 extra racks for the moment. Could be the adjustment. And there's an adjustment from Rogue, so he isn't going to go early Evo chambers and so on. It's going to be a lair. So it's going to be a lair early on here from Rogue. Gives him the chance to go in toward a faster spire. That's typically what we see. Sometimes we see this build on map like this because it is a lot of dead airspace, and so BC builds can be quite powerful places to hide those BCs in different directions. Obviously, it's not always going to be a BC build, and INnoVation's shown no sign of that so far. So this might also just be a Rogue wanting to switch it up into like a mutalist-based opening himself. I don't feel like Rogue going into fast mutas here is very good against what INnoVation is doing with this faster kind of bio play. I know this time the third Rax is a little bit slower, but even still, as the Viking comes through and the OV takes some damage. I mean, I feel like INnoVation's trying to tell Rogue, you know what, look at me, I've got a Viking, you don't worry about this initial attack, but actually the initial attack's still going to show up and it's still going to be strong. It's just going to be off stim pack, and you can see actually just +1 attack, right? There's no combat shield, there's no third CC in general with this, is the biggest difference. It's very aggressive from INnoVation, and it's going to be stimmed Marines against 2 base Mutalists. Like, Mutalists don't do anything in this. There's a safety Baneling Nest now at 5.5 minutes. It's a long time until we get anything like Bane speed, though. Obviously, Combat Shield maybe wants to start from INnoVation. That would be nice. Does get it going. We'll see an initial push at least getting set to begin. Yeah, no third CC. Sorry. I mean, after all these games with 3 CC after 3 CC, I kind of just made the assumption it was building, but yeah, obviously that's why I kind of expected the factory to keep building Hellions. I was kind of shocked about the racks. First push from Inno sets up. You'll have +1 in combat shields behind it as well, and the Hellions kind of taking a bit of control. Move on to the creep spread at least. Scares the creep spread from pushing out further because that tumor will go down immediately. And now we clean up. The Marines getting here. The first Bane's on the way. So 5 Banes coming up. 8 Mutas. The most important part of this might just be trying to hit down enough Marines so the Mutas can just overwhelm. That might be the play. +1 in 10 seconds from INnoVation. Queen's here to help fight this as well. Rogue is 67 drones against a 2-base Terran. He's only just now recently starting up base 3. That's a lot of drones to have in this scenario. And see how the fight goes. Obviously, how these Banelings connect can tell you a lot. Remember, there's no Baneling speed, so it's not likely they're going to do extremely well. They're setting up to come in from different angles here. I mean, these Banes on the top side just getting beaten up. One of the Banes on the bottom side doesn't really manage to connect, and that'll just do it. I mean, Rogue just can't fight this now. He's going to be streaming Lings into Marines, and the counter-attacking Lings didn't find anything at all, so they're already coming back, and they've been killed already. And these Mutas are going to be transfused up by Queens. I mean, that's the only hope right now. The reinforced Marines arrive, so the Marines count will not be overwhelmed at all. And yeah, now you need to morph in some more Banelings, but where the hell are you going to do that? Well, where the hell are you going to go do that? I don't really know. Out over this right side somewhere? 12 drones, 14 drones dead, and that number just keeps on dropping. 19 dead workers. Each tank gets picked off, but yeah, I mean, these last few Marines continue to kill Mutalisks. And even reinforcements rallying across the map as well. INnoVation is just a little bit too strong and comes through with the timing with a build that just Rogue didn't spot. It was just a bit too good against what Rogue was doing. And definitely INnoVation just had a bit of a build order advantage there, but he played it well to get the win. And INnoVation wins this Kung Fu Cup.